Tim, great to have you here, my friend.
Great to be here.
You grew up on a farm in Kentucky and earned your engineering degree from the University of Louisville. How did your upbringing shape your work, your work ethic, and prepare you for the transition in your career from the CIA to entrepreneurship? Wow.
Well, I can tell you that there's no better place for a kid to be raised than on a farm. The basic values, not that it was easy, but the basic values that you learn from being on the farm are incredible, and they're the basics for the rest of life.
Are you talking about work ethic, family values? What exactly?
All of the above. First of all, you work your ass off. So your work ethic, you have a work ethic. You don't mind working from 5 in the morning until midnight because the
Wow.
job has to get done. It's work ethic, it's responsibility, it's integrity. You have to be able to perform on the farm because there's nobody else to do it.
Yep.
If you're on a farm, if you don't do the work doesn't get done. And I
Very
mean,
true.
in the old days, your family starves. So those qualities go from generation to generation, and so those are a deep rooted part of my personality.
So you come from a family of farmers. Your dad, your mom.
Absolutely, yeah.
Wow.
We can trace our family line back to the 1600s in Switzerland.
Are you
All
kidding me?
farmers. Yeah. Came
Wow.
my great grandparents came in the 1880s to Kentucky. But life is about transitions. I mean, there's no way that what I learned on the farm would prepare me for being what I am today. So I went into engineering school and I learned how the world works and how to handle complexity, which led me to new adventures with the CIA.
How did you think about the CIA? What led you to go to the CIA?
You know,
What was your idea of the CIA then?
well, you know,
Which I'm sure evolved with time compared to today.
well, yeah, on the farm you're pretty sheltered. I mean, you watch James Bond movies and you think it's
That's
like that,
right.
but it's nothing like that. But in a lot of ways, it's better because you're really seeing the world for what it is. I mean, I traveled to more than 30 countries, and most of them were in the developed world where there were wars and where there were problems of some kind. I mean, I supported counterterrorism, counter narcotics, counterinsurgency. I mean, all through the 80s, there were insurgencies, communist insurgencies through Central America. I was there, and I mean, seeing what people are actually doing, as opposed to what was being reported in the Washington Post, which was always crap. I can't tell you how many times I experienced something in a country in Latin America, came back and read about it in the Washington Post, and it was nothing like what really happened. I don't know what their sources are, but I think they just made it up most of the time. It was just strange.
So how did you move from the CIA to entrepreneurship? What led you to leave the CIA and become an entrepreneur? And by the way, how long have you worked for CIA?
I was there for 12 years.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. It was interesting, dangerous at times. The CIA is very good at protecting its people. I mean, getting to the point of, I mean, eventually you get to be the pointy end of the stick, which is dangerous. You're supported up to them, but I mean, you're gathering intelligence against somebody who doesn't want you to do it.
So are you a field officer or a desk officer?
I was field support. I brought technology to field operations. I led a few operations that were technical, and I used to do a lot of things in small aircraft, which I guess I don't want to talk too much about.
No, it's
But
fine.
I remember being over the Persian Gulf and being chased by a fighter that was about to catch us.
So you really went through dangerous times.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's what are they? What was the expression? Assholes chewing seat covers.
Wow.
One of those kind of. Fortunately, their enemy came and pursued them, so we got away. Otherwise, we were dead.
So is it the danger that led you to move from CIA to entrepreneurship?
Well, not really. The danger was actually that's a very big part of the transition, because at one point at the agency, I decided that pursuing the big problems trying to solve the big problems was worth the danger. And every field officer has to make that decision for themselves. And a lot of them decide they don't want to go out in the field anymore for that reason. They have something else to protect. But I thought it was worth it. I thought it was worth it to protect my country.
And then you realize one day the big aha moment, it's time to take care of myself and to start making money and to become an entrepreneur. I already paid my dues regarding loving, protecting my country.
Yeah.
I assume so.
It was time to move. It was time to experience the rest of America. So I went. I started my first company.
This is great. And this was when, like roughly?
1996. I started a dial-up internet service, which I actually merged with a couple of other folks. We had an investor, and we were actually the first DSL high-speed internet company on the East Coast.
Wow.
Yep.
So how did your CIA experience shape your desire to have a global impact as an entrepreneur?
Well, that was it exactly. The working on the big problems, and the CIA I was a small cog in a big wheel, but
Of
the
course.
big wheel was worth it, and I was contributing to that, and that was I mean that was very patriotic for me
Absolutely.
to be able to help my country and really help the rest of the world as well. Um, I think where I am is very much a direct result of that feeling back then. As a matter of fact, the new work that I'm doing is very much along the same lines, hopefully with a lot bigger impact.
Yeah.
Maybe a big cog in a big wheel.
So now you're pretty much known as an expert on renewable energy. You have a lot of work being done there. What made you move to renewable energy? Why? Is it because of your CIA experience or what exactly?
Well, sure. Renewable energy is one of those big energy in general is one of those big problems. I mean there are so many wars and conflicts in the world over oil and gas. We need a counterbalance to that. Renewable energy is that counterbalance. Now, it still has a long way to go, and the way the trends are right now, unless somebody does something, it won't be a counterbalance, and we'll have to work really hard at that. But yeah, I mean, this is my effort to save the world, so to speak.
So can you share maybe an example of a barrier you have identified related to renewable energy and how the FPC is positioned to address it?
Oh yeah, absolutely, and it's because of the FPC that I'm in renewable energy now. I mean, there are so many smart people around that you bounce ideas off of people, and all of a sudden you start to see what the real picture is. And what I see in renewable energy is, and you can track it almost directly. Whenever you see a large subsidy, there's a market gap. For example, in storage, there are so many subsidies that nobody has any incentive to bring the prices down. So I mean, they can't. There can be no market at that price. It has to go down. The same thing with in solar panels with the installation cost. So the cost of a watt of power from solar energy has gone from like $20 down to 25 cents. So you would think that they would find some way to install it very cheaply, but no, it's still $1 to $2 a watt, which is really expensive considering the most sophisticated and advanced part of this only costs 25 cents. Uh, you can pretty much track the whole industry like that, where the subsidies, there's the gaps. And it becomes second nature. I mean, when you're surrounded by, well, I mean, you say this all the time. You're the average of the five closest people
Closest to
around.
you,
Yeah.
exactly.
So I mean, with the FPC, you start to talk to people, and they're smart, and they you bounce ideas off of them. They give you genuine feedback. They're not just reflecting what you say.
Exactly.
You get real information.
So now you've started a new company now and you're recruiting top-notch people. I can see
Absolutely.
that. What impact would you like to do to make, to create, given your know-how now in renewable energy? How do you see yourself? Honestly, I'm interested. in 5 years or 10 years? I mean, this is a very controversial space, you know?
Sure. Well, the particular storage project that I'm working on, saw a New York Times article not too long ago. There are 8,000 solar farms in the United States that have yet to connect to the grid, and and this is a huge engineering problem because they're only producing for so many hours a day. So the rest of the grid has to make up for the rest of it, because they have no storage. The storage is too expensive. They can't afford it, and there aren't enough subsidies to fund
So you're connecting all the
Right.
dots between your background in farming, the
Absolutely.
to your CI experience, to the renewable energy. That's very smart.
Yeah, it's about the transition. I would not be able to do what I'm doing now if I didn't have that farm background, if I didn't have the
Absolutely.
CI background, if I didn't have the engineering background.
All for a
It all
reason.
comes together.
Exactly.
And I don't know. I mean, you can kind of orchestrate your life. I didn't orchestrate my life on purpose to get to the point where I am, but I've taken advantage of the opportunities that I
Very
have had.
interesting.
Yeah,
Very interesting.
yeah. It's like, well, and I think you've said this before. I mean, uh, don't follow your passion. Follow the opportunities and be passionate about them.
Absolutely. I always say this.
Yeah, and here's the huge opportunity that really will change the world.
That's fantastic, Tim. So, as someone who has lived a life of adventure, services, impact, what does it mean for you to be an American entrepreneur these days? I mean, how do you hope your work will make a difference for future generations?
Well, thinking about this question, I mean, everything in the United States has begun with an entrepreneur. I mean, I go back to John Rockefeller, Elon Musk,
My idol.
Google, and Facebook. I mean, everything starts as an entrepreneurial venture. That is our lifeblood. I mean, I hope what every entrepreneur hopes, that I'm going to make a difference, and a big one. I mean, I don't know any entrepreneur who started out to be small. And that's the fun part of being an entrepreneur, is looking and working and using all the skills you have to build something big and new, to display for the world and for it to become big. Now, we don't always succeed all the time, nor should we, because that'd be too many big, huge ideas.
That's very
But
true.
but that effort, that ability to try, kind of comes from a deep place in most entrepreneurs, and entrepreneurs can't live without this. But what do I hope? I'm hoping to change the world.
I love it.
We'll see what happens.
It's contagious.
Yeah,
We got to know you much better through this interview, Tim.
Yeah.
Really, and how you connected the dots in your life between being a farmer to an intelligence officer to a businessman, an entrepreneur, a game changer, hopefully for years to come. Thank you so much for your time.
well, I
Tim.
appreciate it. Appreciate the opportunities. Yeah.
Of course, my friend. Thank you, Tim.